Hey, what's up, Street Talks? Eric from the Eric from Street Photography blog. So I wanted to philosophize with you a little bit on sharing my personal experiences with the ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, blah blah. So I've been pretty religiously following intermittent fasting, not eating breakfast or lunch, just a massive dinner at night, and also mostly ketogenic diet, which is high in meats, fatty meats, eggs. And the only things I eat otherwise are like bitter herbs, so like kale, collard greens, kimchi, some fermented foods, whatever. I don't eat sugar, starch. I don't drink alcohol, not for any particular reason. It's just I think there's nothing wrong with alcohol. It just gives me headaches, so drink on. and also I've been doing powerlifting, so deadlift, squats, one rep max efforts and whatnot. And I think this is like, thus far, in terms of my personal experiences, the best, essentially, workout, diet, life, mode of living I've experienced thus far. Let me explain a little bit of why this works so well. So, have you ever noticed, if you have a big lunch or breakfast, whatever, generally we get a little bit of food coma. Wait, this is Anna, so get the door for her. Hello. Hello, welcome. I'm doing a video.
Okay.
What? Okay. Yeah, feel free to just chill for a second. I'm just gonna.
Oh,
where'd you get those fake Balenci's?
How do you know they're fake Balenciaga?
Where'd you get them? They look so cool. Where'd you get them?
From Alibaba.
Oh, they're so cool.
Can we send you a link? I got them for like $20.
Can you send me a link? I totally want a pair of those.
Do you have like ones that I actually saw later that are like black on the bottoms?
Oh, they're so cool. What? You're all about, dude, that's pretty cool.
How do you know they're supposed to be Balenciagas? I didn't know until I read comments later.
Oh, I know too much about these stupid things. Those are super cool. Are those for Cindy?
Yes.
Oh, so nice. Yeah, how you been, Anna?
Good.
Good.
I'm excited to see Cindy also.
Nice. Oh, so I'm actually doing a video right now on intermittent fasting.
It's so hard.
Wait, so how long you been doing intermittent fasting, Anna?
I've been doing intermittent fasting for probably maybe 4 months now.
Whoa. Why'd you get into it?
I got hella fat. None of my clothes fit anymore.
Oh no. So what's so has it been effective? What's your experiences thus far?
My experience, I think it's more of like a mental awareness about how hunger is viewed as such an inconvenience, and
you can take off the sticker later.
Oh, I just got it.
Okay,
Damn
nice.
It's kind of shocking how if you're just slightly uncomfortable, then it's oh, just eat, it's no problem. And then it's kind of crazy how often we're eating all the time too, and how even if you're slightly discomfort of hunger, you immediately solve it. So it kind of makes you have an appreciation for food more.
Yeah. So so what kind of intermittent fasting are you following right now?
So I do 18 hours fast, 6 hours of eating. And so usually at 2 o'clock I'll start eating, and then finish 8 o'clock. And it's so hard. I always want a bowl of cereal at midnight.
So why is cereal bad?
Well, it's just a lot of sugars too, and then I was trying to cut out some carbs. That's so hard too.
Why?
I don't know. I just love carbs, like bread, pasta. It's really great.
Oh, you've been doing the parkour, right?
Oh, so I've been going to parkour gym.
Did you go last night?
Trampoline? No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How's parkour been?
It's fun. It's actually a really funny environment too, because everyone sees each other progress. Because it's a really intimate gym, and when someone's trying, people will be watching somebody try to do something all night, and then if they get it that night, then the entire gym just erupts, and everyone starts clapping and
so nice.
Yelling, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, so do you have any intermittent fasting tips for noobs getting into it?
If you're hungry, just drink hella water or hella coffee, and know that the hunger will pass. And it won't kill you, and it's sometimes it's horrible, but you can just get over it.
Oh wait, so I'm doing the thing. Wait, let's go to the other room where there's not so much water dripping. You go. good recording. Oh, so I'm doing essentially I'm doing this video right now on talking about like intermittent fasting and following more like a ketogenic diet.
Are you doing intermittent fasting?
Yeah, you don't know?
You eat like at crazy hours of the day. Like you'll eat like 2 pounds of pork at like 2 a.m.
Well, so what I do, Anna, is that I don't eat breakfast or lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually I'll fast until like dinner time. So dinner could be as early as 4 p.m. or sometimes as late as like 8 or 10 p.m. So the basic notion is
One meal a day.
I try not to eat when there's light outside.
Oh, okay.
So my theory is this: is that like when it's daylight during the day, I want to maximize my energy to create and be as sharp and energetic as possible. Because like usually you have like lunch or something, you always kind of get like a small food coma after lunch. So now that like I don't eat lunch anymore, I'm always able to have high energy usually, and then usually I kind of like get exhausted around like maybe 6 or 8, and that's usually when I break my fast. And I eat my like 5 pounds of meat, and then just kind of read a book, and then just kind of pass out. And but it's nice because the basic notion is I'm shifting my food coma to nighttime before I sleep, so it kind of makes more sense, right? Doesn't it make more sense for you to like at night eat a bunch, food coma, and then go straight to sleep, and then wake up feeling refreshed?
I guess, but I also heard that digesting food takes a lot like out of your body, but then when you're sleeping, that's when your body like repairs itself. So I heard like conflicting things that like it's not good to eat before you go to sleep because like you want to dedicate your sleeping time to like repairing your body.
I mean, I've heard that too. But
instead of digesting 5 pounds of meat.
Well, it's funny because like I've heard that as well, but like just based on my personal experiences, and like since I've been doing it for like 2 to 3 years, it's totally fine. Like I think it's more of one of these like our parents tell us like it's like, oh, don't eat too much before you sleep, or like also this like people's like, oh, if you eat too much food before you sleep you'll get fat, and I'm not fat, so obviously so obviously what it works. The
Yes, you have a point.
Yeah, and then all the people are like, oh, but Eric, you're Asian. Asians don't give. It's like that is so false. You're like this kind of like I saw this ad from like 50 years ago where people are like encouraging eating more like Asian diets, right? And then the ad was, have you ever seen a fat Chinaman? I was like, oh my God, this is so racist. But then because like even for myself, right, like if I eat carbs or sugars or anything, or even I drink like a few beers, next morning I wake up, I could feel all the belly fat. So like even for me, I could put on a lot of fat, and then my metabolism actually slowed down when I was in college. Like I'd go out partying and then like drinking and stuff, and then have a few Jack in the Boxes, and then I wake up the next morning and then just like feel all the fat on my stomach. And so it's been super interesting is that like ever since I've been doing like ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting, during the day I have like so much more like hyper abundant energy, and obviously I still feel the hunger or whatever, but usually to power through that I just drink a lot of water or drink more coffee. And the thing that's also interesting is that I how you do deadlifts and powerlift, and people say, oh, you should eat food before you lift weights and blah blah, or else it's dangerous, whatever. And do what's insane? I've done so many of my new PRs, my new personal records in powerlifting and deadlifting, whatever, all while fasted. So like, I'll have my mass. So the night before I had my mass is 10 pounds of meat or whatever, right? I mean that's exaggeration, but and then the next day I don't eat breakfast or lunch. I'll just have a few coffees, and I'll go to the gym at around like 3 o'clock where I'm actually still hungry, right? And I'll be able to deadlift over more than 400 pounds. So obviously you don't need to eat before lifting weights. And then I think people make the wrong analogy. They say, oh, the human body is like a car. You must put in fuel before you drive the car. But people don't understand that the human body is like 1 trillion times more complex than mechanical things. We have a biological body. And, my body could still use the fat stores from the past to metabolize the energy, right? And then, or some people like, oh, if you don't eat all like 10 meals a day, you can't get the gains, right? But like, yeah, I've been able to put on pretty decent muscle. Even Amelia, oh, yeah, that's funny. I woke up yesterday, I was walking to the bathroom, and I was just in my boxers, and then Amelia was like, Samchon, I didn't know you looked like the Hulk. Is that so cute? Yeah.
Amelia.
So obviously babies don't lie. So according to her theory, I am the Hulk. And also the thing that's funny too is that like, you know, since I'm Asian guy, right? Like Asian guys have such like unremarkable genetics. Like, you know, I'm just like a typical like, you know, skinny, scrawny Asian guy like anyone else. But like through doing intermittent fasting and just eating a lot at night, like I've still been able to put on muscle mass and become stronger, and I'm becoming more like mentally sharp and stuff. So like really there seems to be no downside to doing intermittent fasting and also ketogenic diet and powerlifting and intellectual productivity. If anything, I feel like I become more intellectually sharp, more physically strong, and yeah, actually, and I actually save a lot of money too because since I don't have to buy lunch. Because you know, isn't lunch like the worst meal?
Well,
It's so expensive and the food
It is.
sucks.
Well, it's so usually like if I before intermittent fasting, if I would have lunch, like it would be so hard to control myself with like a decent lunch. I would go like hard, and then I'm just so sleepy, and I have to go back to work. I like don't know how people did it.
You have to power through by drinking like 10 cups of coffee or eating more sugar. So it's like kind of this negative feedback loop, right? Is that you have a crazy big lunch that's usually carb or sugar heavy. You have the crazy insulin spike and you get the food coma, but you still need to work. So you'll drink more coffee, and most people in their coffee has more sugar, or they'll eat more candy bars, whatever, to just. So it's this constant metabolic damage of like these crazy huge insulin spikes. Whereas I feel like now my insulin levels are pretty steady through the day, and then I have my big insulin spike at night when I have my massive meal, and I just pass out and go to sleep. And so it's been better because I've actually been sleeping better too, and I wake up actually feeling more refreshed.
Really, I wake up hungry.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh no, 6 more hours.
But you know what the nice thing about waking up hungry is that like, this is my theory, I know. So, if you're hungry, right? It motivates you to go out and hunt to get the food, right? Once you've had the big meal, you just want to take a nap, right? So maybe by waking up hungry, it's a good thing because the hunger motivates us to move. If we were never hungry, like, why would we move? Right? Like, you would just, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I know what you mean. It's
Yeah.
like it's a motivator to because
Yeah.
like humans are pretty much have very basic needs like
yeah.
eat, sleep, mate.
Yeah. So even you know, I think about like so you know like there's some like you know those Arab like falconeers, they have the falcons that hunt, right? So the secret is they actually keep them always a little bit hungry. The bird's a little bit hungry. So once it's time for them to go hunt, they're so ravenously hungry that they just like are better hunters, right? And same thing with lions too, is that like lions are always when they're hungry, they're sharper, they're better. I think you're actually stronger when you're hungry because you actually have a motive to go out and hunt. But then once it's killed the thing, right, and it eats like 50 pounds of meat, I think it sleeps for like the next 3 days.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Like insane amount.
So I mean, obviously, like the human metabolism is different from a lion's, but it's probably more similar than dissimilar in terms of, you know, just mammals. Like, because we're both mammals, right?
I think predatory mammals
Yeah,
too.
predatory mammals, and also like, because also lions. The problem is a lot of the when they go to the zoo and they're fed like 3-4 regular meals a day, they just become so lazy and they don't do anything, and you know they get fat or whatever. So actually, what a lot of zoos are doing now is that they feed them less frequently, and by doing that, they're actually sharper and more awake. Because like imagine, right? Like if throughout the course of the day I had like 10 Twinkies, perfectly timed every 2 hours or whatnot, like, you would certainly not be healthy.
Yes.
And you know, it's funny too, because like, you know, people, like when I told people about intermittent fasting and, you know, ketogenic diet, they're like, oh, that's so unhealthy, you know, you're gonna, but whatever, right? And then like, I have the highest muscle mass I've ever had, the lowest body fat, the most like mental clarity, and then like, then people are, oh, but you're gonna die of a heart attack because, you know, you got too much cholesterol or blah blah, right? And then it's like, you could predict if I'm gonna get a heart attack? No.
Well, I think all these notions about like diet and eating and stuff, they're like super outdated stuff from like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they think that if you even have like one meal a day, like it will jack up your metabolism.
Yeah.
Like all those like studies are like super outdated
Yeah.
and just wrong.
And I mean, if you think about biologically, right, is that like humans, like if you think about us like nomad hunter gatherers, right, you might only eat a meal twice a week, and you're just hungry 90% of the time, right? But I would imagine the physique of a hunter gatherer was probably far superior than the modern day human, right? Because they're also walking more and doing more physical activity, and then people they make the claims that but they only live to be 20 years old. But it's like, yeah, that's only because they got like eaten by a lion or something. They didn't die at age 20 from a heart attack or cancer, right? It's like you just died because like you fell into a hole or like a bear jumped out of a bush and just like killed you, right? So like I think what I've actually noticed is that when people critique you for intermittent fasting or ketogenic diet or whatever it's unhealthy, what people are actually saying is, it's more of like, people are saying, I would never do that. You can't get me to do intermittent fasting and keto. But I'm like, I'm not trying to force you. I just do it for myself. And then people always feel offended. Like, for example, like if it's a kid's birthday party, right? And they say, you want some cake? I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I don't want cake. So, come on, have some cake. I'm like, nah, I'm okay. It's like, have some. And then what it is that like they are eating cake, right? Mm-hmm. So when they see somebody else not eating cake, they feel guilty that they're eating cake. So they try to superimpose you eating cake so they don't feel so guilty about themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And so generally what I found is the best thing is just to do self-experimentation, figure out whether it works for you. And obviously everyone's body has a different metabolism, is different, but still, all things considered, I think our metabolisms as humans is probably more similar than dissimilar.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's like the, people that are outside the bell curve, like the extreme example. Yeah. But I think like, it's so rare that you should pretty much disregard it.
Yeah, so so even at this point, like, I think also a lot of people become like, talking about genetics is also bad too, because people say, my parents are both fat, I'm born fat, I have a fat gene, right? So it's like people, they don't feel like they have free will, or they become quite like this notion of learned helplessness, is that like, no matter what I do, I can't change or transform my body or my diet or my ways of thinking. Whereas I'm kind of like more on the extreme opposite, where I believe in like extreme self-will and self-determination, that through pure willpower or having the right knowledge or information, you could do whatever you want. Because like, consider me, Anna, like, I'm such a skinny Asian guy, right? Like, very unremarkable genetics, like, even looking at Appa, right? He's such a
skinny fat, actually.
He's skinny fat, right? Like, such a like emaciated looking human being, right? How is it that I've been able to deadlift over 400 pounds? Like, that's like, obviously there's dudes who could deadlift like 10 trillion pounds, right? But like, for me as an Asian scrawny kid, skinny fat, whatever, being able to do it is obviously, so like, I think anyone with who wants to could do it, and it's like, you don't have to be forced to do it if you don't want to. But anyways, I wanted to make the claim that following intermittent fasting, ketogenic diets not only helped my body and overall mental mood, but it's also made me more creative and more productive as an artist too, because my theory is, when you have a lot of physiological and physical strength and like wellness, when you make art, the art you produce imputes that sort of joy and that vigor and the energy, rather than if you're just like some like 500-pound South Park World of Warcraft, like just like kind of like in some dungeon somewhere, right? And then if they make art, like, it would certainly be a lot weirder, or like if that person like decided to write like literature or something like that, like, obviously and then let's assuming they're drinking like a Coca-Cola and their insulin spiking, certainly your train of thoughts or your mental focus is probably going to be weaker, and therefore like, I think it would be inferior. Whereas like, if the same individual was super duper buff, was into CrossFit or whatever it may be, or parkour, certainly the art they would create would be, I think, better. Does that make sense?
Nope.
Nope.
It was a weird train of thought, but I can see where
It's
you're
kind
going.
of, so let me give you another example, right? So imagine me, right? Eric Kim, me, right?
Mm.
If I was like, let's use an extreme example, 500 pounds,
Okay.
mostly body fat, right?
Okay.
Certainly, I would not be as productive as a photographer, right?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, even just having all that extra weight around, you wouldn't have the energy to even go out walking more and shooting more.
Exactly, right? Whereas, let's say, let's say I was a world-class sprinter or, power lifter or, a CrossFit athlete, right? Would I be a better photographer than the 500-pound Eric?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because you'd be in better shape.
And how would that help my photography or my art?
Well, you wouldn't be held back by, physical incapacities. You'd have more energy. And then you probably already, if you're in good shape and have a workout routine, then you really have a lot of determination to follow through on something or a set schedule too.
Mm-hmm. Or let's get an example, right? So let's say if I was the 500-pound versus CrossFit Eric, right? 500-pound Eric. Which person would be better at like even painting? Do you think?
I think that one is up to debate because. You could like argue some things like maybe the person that works out more is like dedicates more value into like physique, and then the 500-pound person spends more of their time on creating art.
Okay. Or how about this? Who has more arm energy to hold a paintbrush and then do paintbrush for longer periods of time?
What if that buff guy is super tired?
That's true.
Okay.
Assuming the buff guy has gotten like a good 10 hours of sleep.
Okay, the buff guy.
The buff guy, right? And so I think it's so basic is that things that people don't think about, right? Is that painting, right? It's quite physically tired. Most people are standing, right? And they're using the arms. So obviously you need some sort of physical body, the hand energy, right? Or photography is the obvious one because you have to go out and actually walk, squat, run around, take pictures, right? And even I was thinking about writing, even writing on a laptop, whatever, it requires a lot of physical energy and focus and for you to be able to concentrate for long periods of time, right? And certainly if you're able to have a more steady blood insulin level, you should be able to write longer, more clearly, and with less fatigue than if you're, eating a Twinkie every other second and you're doing that, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so ultimately it's not really a matter of I think, essentially I'm trying to make the point is that by focusing on building more, you as an individual artist, creator, photographer, whatever, by putting on more muscle mass and lowering your body fat percentage is going to be beneficial to your life as an artist, creator, innovator, thinker. Do you think that holds true?
I think that's a fair claim.
Yeah, right? Or even, let's say you're a photographer, right? And you start doing deadlifts and squats at the gym. Certainly you'd be more adept at running around. Hello! Okay, so more turbo thoughts to come. You can stop recording.